I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. Giving children in Brooklyn and Queens the hope of a bright future. It's an annual dinner in support of Catholic education.
Being in an Angel Futures program, it has helped me grow up as a person, mature, as well as my grades. It provided me on the right path.
Plus, why does politics seem so nasty these days? Bishop DiMarzio joins me to talk about the public discourse.
Opinions are opinions, and beliefs are beliefs, but we need to respect people.
And they came, they saw, they conquered. And now a new movie tells their story. I'll talk to one of the stars of The Mighty Max. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. It was a star-studded event at the Waldorf Astoria in Midtown Manhattan earlier this week. And although some famous names and faces may have been the big draw, it was a dinner that was all about looking forward to the future of education here in the Brooklyn Diocese. Yes, it was the Futures in Education Foundation's annual Scholarship Fund dinner. It's an opportunity for children to meet their angels. Those are the men and women who help pay tuition in Catholic schools in Brooklyn and Queens for students whose families cannot afford it. It's also a chance to raise money for the foundation and honor some of the men and women who are the products of the Catholic schools in Brooklyn and Queens. Rosanna Scotto of Channel 5 was the MC for what was an exciting night.
What you're doing here tonight is really remarkable. You are helping support the dreams of children served by Futures in Education.
We're here for the Futures in Education dinner. It's a time when we can raise money to subsidize our schools and our scholarship fund, which is so important to so many children that want a Catholic education but really can't afford it.
The Angel program is extremely important for students who don't have the opportunity to attend their neighborhood Catholic school. It allows them the chance to be a part of that school, to practice their faith, to receive quality education, and it's also important for Angel sponsors to be a part of their community, to give back.
Well, we have a silent auction, we have jewelry, we have some sports and entertainment pictures and items that people are very interested in. But also our live auction is very good. We have some live auction items where we actually auction off on the floor, and that's where we really raise a lot of money.
$6,000, dinner with the bishop, we got $6,000. Do we have seven? $7,000, dinner for 8 at the bishop's residence. We have $6,000 now, do we have 7?
John Lo Consolo's my angel. We vote to each other every month. He always had my progress report. He always had my report cards. His birthday, my birthday, every holiday we always kept in contact. Being in an Angel Futures program, it has helped me grow up as a person, mature, as well as my grades. It provided me on the right path.
Maria Bartiromo, she's known for being on NBC with the stock report from the Wall Street, and she's a product of our schools. She went to St. Bernadette School in Dyker Heights. She then went to Fontbonne Hall in Bay Ridge, so she's one of our success stories.
Dream big because you have the support system in place. I know that I did because of my upbringing and my Catholic education and the family values that we all share in this room tonight.
I am incredibly honored to receive this award, and the truth is my Catholic upbringing and my upbringing in Brooklyn, New York is completely attributable to any success that I've had. An upbringing of lessons of hard work and family and togetherness and faith in God is really the backbone of my success, and so I always want to give back. I'm so humbled and grateful for this wonderful honor.
I am at a loss for words because this year we grossed almost $1.6 million. And that turns into about $1.3 million for scholarships.
It's beautiful to give back to the children, to give them a foundation, a Catholic education, to give these kids a good opportunity moving forward. It's love. That's what it is.
Well, $1.3 million in scholarships, $1.6 million overall. That's making a big difference in a lot of kids' lives. Well, Basketball Hall of Famer Chris Mullin, who we actually saw in that report, will be the honoree at next year's dinner. Stay with us. There's more currents ahead. A sex abuse case in Missouri leads to the indictment of the bishop there. We'll have that story, plus the rest of the day's headlines, next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, everybody loves an underdog. A new movie tells the story of an unlikely basketball champion. I'll talk to one of the film's stars. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. The bishop of the Diocese of Kansas City, St. Joseph, has been indicted on charges of failing to report suspected child abuse. It's the first ever indictment of a bishop on charges related to abuse. An investigation commissioned by the diocese found that it did not follow its own procedures in reporting suspected abuse. At the center of it all was the discovery of images on a priest's computer that were later determined to be child pornography. Both Bishop Robert Finn and the diocese have entered not guilty pleas. In a statement, a lawyer for Finn said that the bishop denies any criminal wrongdoing and has said that the bishop has cooperated with the law enforcement agencies at all stages. Well, in an appeals court ruling in Alabama, it's blocked a controversial provision of the state's new immigration law. A few controversial provisions, actually. The injunction stopping officials from checking the immigration status of public school students. The court also blocked a provision making it a misdemeanor for immigrants to not complete or carry a registration card. In separate cases back in August, Alabama's Catholic bishops had sued the governor, attorney general, and district attorney over that law. An update now from Texas, where Father Frank Pavone, the national director of the pro-life organization Priests for Life, failed to show up for a meeting with his bishop. Amarillo Bishop Patrick Zurich asked Pavone to meet with him yesterday. Zurich recalled Pavone to the Diocese of Amarillo over concerns about Priests for Life's finances and Pavone's obedience to his bishops. Turning now to Washington and what was likely to be a symbolic vote, the House yesterday passing a measure that would remove any possibility of federal funding for abortion from last year's health care reform legislation. The measure, known as the Respect Life Act, would also provide conscience protections for medical professionals who do not take part in abortions, do not want to take part in abortions. It's not expected to pass the Senate, and President Obama has said he would veto the measure should it reach his desk. Well, meanwhile, Republican presidential candidate Rick Perry says he does not endorse the controversial statements of a pastor who endorsed him last week. Baptist pastor Richard Jeffress called Mormonism and other faiths, quote, false religions. Jeffress also called Mormonism a cult and said that candidate Mitt Romney, who is a Mormon, is not a Christian. In an interview this morning on CNN, Perry was asked about those remarks.
Are you prepared to disavow the pastor's comments and distance yourself from them?
We live in a great country. Our founding fathers gave us freedom of religion, and we certainly have that in America, and I respect that. We have religions of all backgrounds, but we also have freedom of speech. And I'm not going to spend my time defending everything that is said by someone who endorses me. Doesn't mean I endorse what they say, and that is the case here.
Well, meanwhile, the church that Jeffress pastors is under fire by one advocacy group who claims that the posting of Jeffress's endorsement of Perry on its website violates IRS rules. Well, the Protestant pastor scheduled to die in Iran may not be getting a new trial after all. The head of an advocacy group following the case says reports of a new trial are misleading and that they likely refer to the trial that took place last month. The pastor was imprisoned in 2009 and sentenced to die after refusing to recant his Christian beliefs and convert back to Islam. Well, it looks like a busy weekend ahead for Pope Benedict in what promises to be an exciting couple of days. Rome Reports has details.
The Pope will personally lead two key events organized to promote the new evangelization. The events are unique since they'll be the first gatherings on the new evangelization that will take place here in Rome.
It's a sign of the importance the Pope gives to the new evangelization, for it was he who instituted the Pontifical Council. The Pope will meet with us on Saturday as part of the celebration. On Sunday, he'll preside over the Mass in St. Peter's Square with all the new evangelizers.
Part of the meeting will include an exchange of ideas on the new evangelization. On Saturday, for example, representatives of the new evangelization will speak. They include Mother Veronica Versosa, who's the founder of Jesu Comunio. She leads a new religious order with a high success of vocations. Also speaking is Italian writer Vittorio Mezzori, who will talk about the reasons to believe in God. Scientist Marco Bersanelli will address the relationship between science and faith. And finally, Colombian Bishop Fabio Secun will talk about the new evangelization in Latin America. Internationally known singer Andrea Bocelli will offer a small concert just before the arrival of Benedict XVI. On Sunday, the Pope will preside over Mass in St. Peter's Basilica, where the new evangelization will of course be the main focus. It will be a turning point that will bring specific guidelines and benchmarks for the forthcoming synod on the new evangelization. It will take place in October 2012 here in Rome.
Elsewhere in Rome, a Vatican official says investigations are ongoing into possible miracles through Pope John Paul II's intercession. Cardinal Angelo Amato tells EWTN News that the Vatican is looking into a number of possible miracles. Once another miracle is approved, the late pontiff can be declared a saint. And it was time to celebrate in Brazil this week as Rio de Janeiro's famed Christ the Redeemer statue turned 80. Thousands of people turned out to mark the anniversary of the 125-foot statue that overlooks Rio. Pope Benedict is expected to visit the statue in 2013 when he travels to Brazil for the next World Youth Day. Stay with us, there's more currents ahead. Coming up, why can't Washington seem to get anything done lately? Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio goes into the deep about our public discourse.
You know, the dignity of the human person is the whole fundamental understanding of our social theory as Catholics.
Welcome back. Well, the comments by a Baptist pastor about Mormonism being a cult and a false religion is just one example of some of the mudslinging surrounding the race for the GOP presidential nomination. Of course, those particular remarks were aimed at candidate Mitt Romney, who is Mormon. But this less than civil public discourse is something we've actually become accustomed to over the last couple of years. And just last year, I sat down with Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio to talk about it. We bring you now an encore of that Into the Deep. Well, Bishop DiMarzio, thanks once again for joining us here on Currents. We appreciate it. When we think about the political climate in America today, it's obviously very polarized. There's a lot of public discourse out there. Why do you think that is?
Probably is a lack of respect for persons. You know how important that is, that we respect other people, even if we disagree with them. But we should never come out kind of ad hominem them at the individual person. Opinions are opinions, and beliefs are beliefs, but we need to respect people. And even if we think they're wrong, they still deserve respect, even if we don't agree with their opinions. But when that stops, then you really have a diminution of the kind of atmosphere there should be in a country.
Yeah, we saw it a lot, I think, recently when we started discussion about, or politicians started discussion about the health care bill back last year and then on into this year as well. And, you know, there was a lot of, and it's not only on one side, I don't want to, you know, make that assumption or that statement, but this is just as an example here, that, you know, there were a lot of these protests where, you know, people would have the signs with President Obama's picture, you know, and like a Nazi emblem, or, you know, him painted up like the Joker and that kind of thing. And that sort of thing happened in the previous administration when people would protest against President Bush as well. So there's a difference, I hear you saying, about, you know, disagreeing with someone's opinions and then doing that, portraying the president as a Nazi or whatever. And where do you think it crosses the line? I mean, is there a line that you can say, okay, stop here and don't go any further?
Well, I'll go back and say, you know, the dignity of the human person is the whole fundamental understanding of our social theory as Catholics. And once we depart from that, everything goes wrong. This is why we talk about abortion. as not being respectful of the dignity of a human person, that it is a human person that is the subject of an abortion, unfortunately. And down the line of all the things, you know, why we defend the immigrant. All of it because we have to defend the human person. It's an inviolate right. I think it's part of our Constitution also that we respect the human person. And when that respect is diminished in any way, then you get into all kinds of problems.
Why do you think people in this political climate can't seem to find common ground? Is it like someone, you know, yelling fire in a crowded theater and then everybody just kind of goes crazy? And then, you know, it's all confusion and nobody can kind of find their way. Do you think that has something to do with it?
Well, dialogue is the way you find common ground. And if you don't dialogue, you never find common ground. You know, you don't know what the other person really thinks, what they believe in. Someplace in the middle, you can compromise or come to common ground, which is not really compromise, but where you believe everything, people believe the same thing, and you can build on that. But if you don't talk to one another, if you're all fighting or you're just calling people names, well, that never is going to happen. So dialogue is the key thing.
Yeah. How do you think the church can help in all this? I mean, you know, it's obviously plays a role in a lot of people's lives. How do you think the church can go about encouraging people to maybe turn things around as far as the discourse goes?
Well, first we have to model the dialogue ourselves. We have to be willing and also able in the public forum to be able to speak to the issues of our day. There would be those who would silence the church, telling us we have nothing to say, or we should not say anything because we're church and somehow we're partisan to our own beliefs. Not that we're taking the part of any particular party, but anything religious is taboo. So we need to keep reaffirming that we have a place in the public forum, that we have a right as everybody to propose our values, our system of belief. We're not imposing it on anybody, but we want an opportunity, like everybody else has, in a democracy to be able to present what we believe to be true.
All right. Well, Bishop DiMarzio, thank you so much once again for joining us here on Currents.
Welcome.
We appreciate it. The more things change, the more they stay the same, huh? Stay tuned. There's more Currents coming up. When we return, they beat the odds and their opponents. A new film chronicles the true story of the Mighty Max, and I'll speak with one of the stars. Well, finally tonight, you may have heard that earlier this week, the NBA announced it was canceling the first 2 weeks of the upcoming season because of a player lockout. And even though the courts in America's arenas may be empty, fans will still be able to get their fix. That's because basketball is coming to the big screen. A new movie called The Mighty Max tells the true story of the Immaculata College women's basketball team, who for 3 straight seasons back in the 1970s won the national championship. It was an unlikely rise to the top for a team that hailed from a small all-girls Catholic college in Pennsylvania. The Mighty Max has its big premiere tonight in Philadelphia, not too far from Immaculata College, and it hits theaters nationwide coming up next weekend. I had a chance to talk by phone earlier today with one of the film's stars, Katie Hayek. Katie, thanks so much for joining us today here on Currents. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, of course, this movie is about a girls' basketball team, college basketball team, that literally goes from worst to first. It's kind of one of those rags to riches stories, I guess. How does it differ, though, maybe from other films of that same sort of genre?
You know, I really think it's an inspiring film. Kathy Rush in '72 was only a few years older than the players, and you know, she came out, and in the '70s she didn't really have an aversion to, you know, having a family or anything like that, but she really had these goals of being a college coach and balancing out her dreams as being a mom. And I think that shows that kind of women empowerment type of feel that you get from this movie. And Teresa Schenk, who I portray in the film, she always says that Kathy led by example, and all these players went on to have very successful careers. So I really think it's kind of a movie that leads by example, and it's really about the equality of dreams.
And obviously this takes place at a Catholic school, so what role does faith play in this film?
I'd like to see it really as a movie that has faith in it. There's nuns in it, which the cool part about this movie is, like Sister Act, it really kind of humanizes the nuns, just because a lot of people don't know about that lifestyle, or they just, they're unaware of how they are, and it really just humanizes it. There's tears, there's laughter, there's joy, there's wins, there's losses. I think it touches a lot of different aspects, and people walk away with it in so many different ways, and they take what they want from the film, and it's all been very positive. So we feel really good about it.
Right, and this is Immaculata College, right, I believe, is where this takes place, right?
Right, yeah, we filmed the majority of our scenes there, and it's a beautiful campus.
It really is, as I was watching the trailer and everything there, and it's funny that you mentioned Sister Act, because I really did kind of get that feel from watching the trailer, especially like toward the end, you see like the nuns as cheerleaders. I just think that's really, really cool, and it really does have that sort of humanizing effect. And one other thing too, I think to note for people, this is probably a pretty easy role for you to play, at least in the physical realm of it all, and the basketball aspect of it, because you actually played basketball in college as well, right?
I did. I was prepared, to say the least, but I was, again, portraying a three-time national champion in Teresa Shankren. So I still felt like I had a lot to live up to, but my previous basketball experience definitely helped.
At least I'm sure you look natural on screen, at least play. You at least know what you're doing.
Yes, and actually Tim, our director, didn't let anyone read for the role until he saw them play basketball, because he really wanted that genuine athletic feel from each player. And if you didn't believe it on the screen, you weren't really going to believe the story. So I think that was a really cool thing that he did.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I believe some of the original team members are actually in the film as well, right?
They are, and it's really, really cool. It's kind of towards the beginning, and Carla Gugino walks through the church, and you see her pass down a flyer through a whole row of nuns. And the last one ends up being Teresa Shank, and it's a really great scene. And those are all some of the players from that era team.
That's awesome. Well, as we kind of come to the end of our time here, what is, I guess, your takeaway from the film? What do you want people to take away from it when they see it? What message do you think it sends?
Like I said, I really think everybody takes something different away from the film. And I've learned so many things, and I've taken away a lot of different things just by filming it and also hearing people's responses. But I guess my main thing that I were to take away from this movie is, on a personal level, is the fact that I was fortunate enough to have a Division I scholarship, and I've seen the perks of women's basketball and men's basketball, and just what coaches receive nowadays, endorsements, and the gear that girls receive and men, just athletes now. And it had to start somewhere, and I really think that these women were the catalyst of women's basketball in the 172 team. And so I was able to see both sides of that, and I just have gained a greater appreciation. So I would love for athletes now to see this movie and see that and learn that just like I did. So I think that's one of my main aspects that I love about it.
All right, Katie Hayek from the Mighty Max. The movie premieres in Philly tonight, and then I believe it opens next weekend, correct?
Correct. Next Friday, October 21st.
Okay, well, wonderful. Well, all the best to you. Enjoy the premiere and everything, all the festivities there in Philly. And we appreciate you taking some time out to join us here on Currents. Really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks. Great to talk to her. Looks like a great and uplifting film as well. Well, that wraps it up for this edition of Currents, and we'll see you once again on Monday. But until then, be sure and visit us online at currentsny.net. You can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great weekend.